then in 1947, the whole community, along with the Khalifatul Masih Sani, the second caliph, the community had to migrate from India to what became as Pakistan. So from Qadian they migrated, and then God Almighty blessed them with a new headquarter with the name of Rabwa. And then we see again that in 1984, when the dictator of Pakistan, General Ziaul Haq, he promulgated an ordinance, very infamous ordinance against the community, and made the life very difficult. And practically it was not possible for any head of the community to discharge his responsibilities and convey the message which he is bound to convey, peacefully living in that country. Then under divine permission, the Khalifatul Masih IV, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, he migrated from there. Now looking at all these migrations, one point emerges very brilliantly, and that is, wherever the migration is, always there is victory and success. Decree of God is that through this migration they are given victories after victories. And in case of this final example of the migration which I have given, one can see that the Ahmadiyya community, it spread far and wide throughout the world as a very prominent, progressive Muslim community, and God Almighty also blessed it with its own voice in the form of MTA, Muslim Television Ahmadiyya International. That is a global voice of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which is now recognized as a very progressive, organized, dynamic Muslim community in the Muslim world. And not only in the Muslim world, but I would say throughout the world. So that is how the progress has been always attached to the concept of migration.
तो हुजूर ने खिलाफत को महफूज करने के लिए ये कदम उठाना ज़रूरी समझा, हिजरत कर चाहिए। और वैसे भी दोस्तों ने जो आखिरी एक छोटा सा बहस था हुजूर के मशवरे के लिए, तो उसमें हुजूर ने फरमाया कि अब से हिजरत तो ज़रूरी हो चुकी है, और हिजरत ना करके जमात को तरक्यात से हम रोक नहीं सकते। और आपका एक ये फिक्र था कि अगर मुझे हथकड़ी पर मानी जाए तो मैं खुशी महसूस करूँगा, मैं उसमें कोई रोब में नहीं है, कोई खौफ मुझे नहीं है। बड़े हुजूर दलेर हैं और दलेरी में आप पे रहे, और जो रास्ते में अल्लाह ताला ने उनको हिफाजत के सामान मुहैया फरमाए वो भी रिकॉर्ड में आ चुके हैं कि किस तरह रास्ते में ऐसे लोग भी मुयसर आए जो थे हकीकतन सरकारी आदमी थे, फौज के आदमी थे, लेकिन फ़कीर बने हुए थे।
But to leave Pakistan was as difficult an issue as to continue living in there. The Zia government had made all arrangements to arrest the supreme head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. This is the only cowardice that Zia could plan against the person who is led by God Almighty. But when the divine hand stretches out to help, it sees no boundaries. The fourth successor of the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, on whom be mercy, consulted some senior members of the community about the present situation. They unanimously agreed that migration was the only way out.
Keeping in view these difficulties and in view of this ordinance, Hazur has convened a mini shura in Rabwa. This mini shura was conducted. Most of the Ahmadies was in this shura, and the participant of this shura, they requested Hazur that in such a situation, Hazur should leave Pakistan. Hazur has already a plan to visit European countries, European missions, and this plan was prepared by the Tabshir beforehand. And these members of the Shura requested Hazur that you have a plan to visit European countries. We request you to accept our humble request, and you should leave the country.
As a result of this ordinance, it was difficult for the Khalifatul Masih to act as the spiritual religious leader of the community and to impart them the guidance which he is bound to do. So therefore, after consultation and finally after prayer to Allah Almighty, he decided to leave the country so that he can move to a place from where he can look after the needs and guide the whole community, which is a global community spread all over the world.
general condition of the Ahmadis was that they were worried about Hazur's health, Hazur's life and the working of the Jamaat.
वो जब आखिरी नमाज हुजूर ने इशा की पढ़ाई है ना वहाँ पर, वो बड़ा मंजर था, दिल को परेशान करने वाला भी और खुदा ताला की रहमत को याद करने वाला भी, दोनों लिहाज से बड़ा उम्दा अमल था। तो हुजूर ने फरमाया कि बैठ जाए, मैं कोई तकरीर नहीं करने वाला, मैंने सिर्फ आपको देखना है। तो ऐसा जज्बाती था कि लोग रो पड़े, ज़ोर ज़ोर से रोने लग पड़े। बहरहाल हुजूर जब वहाँ से अलविदा हुए हैं तो बहुत ही रात को जो मंजर था वो काबिल-ए-दीद था ईमान के लिहाज से।
Karachi, Khudawandi job started from Sakhar to the airport. It was our responsibility. We have sent some people who have received Hazur's kafla from Sakhar. They escorted this kafla and they come to Karachi, where we have made some arrangements at the airport, and it was considered where Hazur would like to stay during that short period. We then proposed to our Amir Sahib, Hazur should stay some place of the residence of some gentleman who is not very much known as a Jamaat office bearer. So we have selected a house, and Hazur, that house was vacated, and Hazur very kindly accepted to stay there for 1 or 2 hours. Another thing I want to mention, that when Hazur had a little rest at that house, when Hazur came down, so Hazur was having a turban, achkan and everything. So one of my colleague, he was a Naib Qaizullah and he was a military man, he came to me. He said, Hazur has come along with uniform. So is it not possible that we can request Hazur that this is not the time of uniform? And so I said, no, I can't do this. It's Allah's job. Allah always safeguards Hazur, no problem. Then Hazur, so it's also, when Hazur has not left quietly or in a secret way, everybody knew, everybody has seen Hazur. Because I wanted to mention it, but because one of the Karachi paper mentioned that Ahmadies Khalifa have left quietly and secretly, to secret means. I mean, this Hazur's position was quite explicit. I want to say one thing, that we have made some planning, but in this whole project, all that planning which we made, that was failed. And Allah has done His own arrangements. It's been maybe this, our planning was not, we couldn't do according to our planning. Maybe that Allah wanted to show us that this is my job, not your job.
कोई हुक्म इब्तिलाई नहीं था, ये बड़ी खुदा ताला की रहमत थी कि रास्ता बिल्कुल साफ था, कानून के लिहाज से भी और अमली लिहाज से भी, और जो इंतज़ाम किया हिकमत से किया और खुदा के फजल से वो अमली जामा पहन सका। ये ख़ास अल्लाह ताला की ताईद है और ख़ास अल्लाह ताला की रहमत है कि जो भी इंतज़ाम बना उसमें कोई बहुत लंबे चौड़े इंतज़ामात नहीं थे, सिंपल रब्बा से रवाना हुए और कराची पहुंच गए और ऑनवर्ड चले गए। ये लेकिन अल्लाह ताला ने हर मामला, जिस तरह नाम की अब गलती हो गई, वो तलाश करते रहे मिर्ज़ा नासिर अहमद को, और हुक्म भी ये था कि मिर्ज़ा नासिर अहमद को रोक लिया जाए, तो मिर्ज़ा नासिर अहमद होते तो रोके जाते। तो हुजूर का जाना ऐसा हिकमत अल्लाह ताला के फजल के पर मुनसर था, कोई रास्ते में रोक पैदा नहीं हुई, ना कानून शिकनी हुई, न कोई और धोखाधड़ी हुई। अल्लाह ताला ने तमाम सच्चाइयों के मयार कायम रखते हुए एक अमन व अमान से हजूर को बाहर पहुँचा।